to the cloud. I think it's recording now.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, welcome. Welcome to this conversation with Yoli Maya Yeh in Chicago, speaking about the Tantrik Gurukul and the Indigenous Roots of Yoga. And I'm honored to be able to share with you this conversation with Yoli and her wisdom and experience and scholarship, having spent 12 years and 3 weeks in eating, living, breathing, sleeping, practicing yoga with the guru in the Gurukul. She's going to speak to us about that. And the question is, Yoli, what is a Tantrik Gurukul?
Yes. So we're on some perseverance today. We're not going to give up on this conversation because it really is that important. I think part of the struggle is that we're coming to the absolute end of anybody who knows about this stuff anymore. My own journey in both my Native North American lineages, as well as the Tantrik Gurukul that I practiced in, was really some Last of the Mohicans style, where like that was it, that after the tenure and the time that I had in these lineage practices, these lineages actually ended. And that's like, wait, how is that even possible? But let's call it in very technical terms. Yeah. So we started our conversation in Facebook 5-6 times.
Seven times.
My karate sensei says never give up, so just never give up.
Never give up.
There's always a way. Never give up. So we started one of our conversations actually with the inspiration of why it's so critically important to establish that there is a matriarchal and matrilineal origin to the Tantric teachings, and that origin is situated in indigenous culture and oral tradition. And if we were going to try to give any sort of dates to this in the South Asian context, then what we're talking about is something between 30,000 and 40,000 years old. And what's really critically important to understand is that matrilineal teachings were passed from woman to woman, but they're not exclusively for women. They're for the whole community. They're for the health, well-being, and betterment of the whole community. Now, if you fast forward to today, you would think that taking that survey of the yogic world, really kind of jump-starting from what you were sharing yesterday, Uma, about female siddhi, and why I've always thought that was a really critically important view that you were introducing to people in Yoni Shakti, because all the siddhis that you find in the yogic world are all male-centered. And if in the modern yogic world and tantric world, they're all male-centered, and women are just like an arm puppet, a decorative piece for the male practitioner, and or an item of pleasure. And of course she should be very thankful, that she has this very prominent role as the guru's, nail technician, or the guru's sweeper, or the guru's cook, or whatever subservient place she's given, or on up the hierarchy, given places of prominence, given places of authority. Let's get back to the indigenous structure of things. Yeah. Through the matriarchy comes the empowerment And so in an authentic Tantrik Gurukul, it's a female, but it's not always a binary female. I'll like legit. It's yeah, and I'm not saying that to accommodate an LGBTQIA narrative. What I am sharing and anything that I'm sharing with you today are direct oral teachings and or my own personal experience 12 years in a Tantrik Gurukul. That empowerment masters can also be non-binary. So just keep that one in mind. Maybe that's like just blew your thing, right? So putting it now back in binary terms, through when you would see a guru mother and a guru father, you know, a female and a male guru in the seat, she is giving the empowerment. She is the teacher.
Yeah.
She's the master. And then when we started this talk, the second, third, and fourth times, we were also talking about basically the conceptualization of Ishtadevi, or the root deity in a lineage. When we're talking about matriarchal tantric lineages, and to be honest with you, I don't know. I guess you could call a Shaivite tantric lineage patriarchal, but Shiva would never call it that. You know what I mean? So it's like, it doesn't even really, you can't even put that on, you know, a Shaivite tantric lineage. It's like, if it's tantric, it's mother worshiping.
Yeah.
Right? And so...
And I think the third or fourth time we started this conversation, you began that by saying that in the matrilineal kind of concept of the worship of Shakti, of the worship of the mother, what you got was this wonderful phrase. You said this unbroken chain of transmission of teachings from woman to woman.
And the unbroken chain of teachings from woman to woman, or from guru to disciple, is the validation factor of a lineage. You have to be able, so in the tantric world, you have to be able to quote 3 generations of your lineage. Like that's something you are supposed to be able to do. So before we got online and we were talking about kind of where we want to go with this and what we want to get into and what we want to invite people into, because recognizing that most of what I'm saying, most of the audience is going to listen to this may be the first time you are ever hearing someone even talk about this. And so I do want to make sure that I'm keeping this really in the nuts and bolts, really in the basics. That lineage and your ability to quote your lineage is very critically important in the tantric world. And so, of course, it's yet another element that is routinely exploited. Just like I've already named today, the closeness with the guru, the relationships that are closest with the guru. We're talking about, like, I've also named male gurus and then female consorts, and how that is, you know, high susceptibility for misuse, abuse, misdirection, and the whole lot. And so it's not what's in the text. So for we practitioners, our validation is not what's in the text. Our validation is what you can say is your unbroken chain, right? And the lineage that I practiced in which is called the Nath Ogora Nath Sampradaya. We can trace our lineage 40,000 years, actually, and in an unbroken chain. And we have many, many, many female masters. Where I started our discussion, today is, I referenced Last of the Mohicans, that we're in a sad, degenerate moment in the sense of these indigenous lineages of all sorts, the earth-based lineages of all sorts, tantric and otherwise, around the world. They're all ending up. You cannot find the masters. You cannot find the teachings. We are, it's eroding as quickly as the topsoil.
It's really quite tricky to hear right now. I hope the sound is...
Yeah, I'm hearing you. We're getting like a little here, but I haven't seen any glitchy things as yet.
Okay.
So I think we're fine for the moment, but we'll see. I mean, it's kind of in Ma's hands what she's gonna let out and whatnot.
Yeah,
We're gonna record this. We're giving it a go. So my personal experience was I got to receive direct teachings from multiple female masters living in the region where I lived, in an Indo-Tibetan region, for the length of time that I did. And they were all the last. They were the last Khandros. They were the last of the Guru mothers. And it was just this utterly fantastical ride of trying to show up and weed through my own limitations, many of them imposed by being raised just in the modern era. Not even to say the cultural implications or lingual, but I mean, this is why I speak 4 Indian languages and 3 dialects of each one, was so that I could grab these morsels, and just put them in this amazing basket of teachings, and then just be like, okay, at some moment in time, I'm going to try to make sense of all this, but I'm going to grab all these berries, all this fruit, that I possibly can. And receive these genuine empowerments and practice in the most genuine way that I possibly could, knowing that, I am flawed. I am not the best meditator. I am not the most diligent student. I did my best. And so as a person who is now holding these teachings, I feel a deep sense of responsibility now to speak out in defense of authenticity, that tantric teachings are authentically indigenous. And there are layers upon layers upon layers of histories and narratives that are packed on and appropriating the originality that is the indigenous, woman-centered, matriarchal, matrilineal teaching of what is Tantra. Tantra is harmonizing the inner and outer nature through the 5 elements of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And what is Gurukul? Kula means family, Guru meaning teacher, but a kula also means a den, like a lion's den, a lioness's den. And so these lineages were so and are so fringe, they're so inaccessible, They were so secretive. And then even within the lineage were in secret code languages. Now, why was that the way it was? So that, number one, safety and security in the integrity of the lineage. Number two was so that you could have multiple levels of practitioners in the same room. The guru could give one teaching. Mind you, my guru taught in song. So you might be from the outside looking in, and it looks like all we're doing is partying. But what was actually happening was, through the revealed songs, through the doha, the tradition of doha, the rhyming couplet, that were sometimes written down, sometimes taught from memory, and often were freestyle. I mean, that's so indigenous that it's rhythm, riddle, and rhyme, you know, like it's so. And then the riddle part is that they were in is called Tantrik Gurukul. It means twilight language. So have you been riding a bike or driving a car during the twilight hours and you can't see anything, right? And also that deer jumps out, that pedestrian comes out of nowhere. So twilight is a very difficult time to have like clear sight, you know, kind of thing. It's a little bit shaded. It's a little bit veiled, right? And so Tantrik Paribrasha means code language.
Yeah.
So here you've got these Guru Mas and Guru Babas who are teaching through song, through poetry, through revealed poetry. You know, the revelation is freestyle. It's just coming through. And there is Nada yoga being practiced, the yoga of sound and music accompanying them. So it's a multi-layered practice. And then you would have, in the Kula system, you would have multiple practitioners in the room receiving the teachings in different stages of practice, and you would interpret the code language according to your stage of practice. So now put this beautiful indigenous structure, that its originality was all about integrity and dignity and quality and sincerity. And you walk that through the linear historical line of corruption, authoritarian rule, hierarchies, imperialisms, colonialisms, and what you get is fodder for exclusivity, secret society.
Exactly. Yeah, it's almost like a perversity of those kind of the secret aspect of it, because then what happens is the secrets that are being kept are the secrets of abuses and violence and things that have no integrity. You know, it's actually, it becomes totally turned on its head. And there's all this kind of secrecy, don't tell anyone, this is between us, and the kind of language that's used to disempower. It's a horrible perversity. It's taken,
and to disadvantage, to take advantage, and then you put that in the context of capitalism and a commercialism, where so the lineage that I practiced in is a non-monastic lineage. Now I told you the name of it, the Agora Nath Sampradaya. Now here's what's really gonna blow some of your minds. We are a Buddhist lineage. Buddhist. Buddhist. Buddha. Hopefully one of those words resonated with you. Buddhism. Okay? So now somebody's gonna be like, that's not possible. Nope, it is possible. We were basically, the whole lineage was the last of the Mohicans. We were the last of our kind of a whole world of tantric lineages that world of tantric lineages is pyramidical in shape. Why is it pyramidical in shape? Why are there some natural hierarchies? Okay, hierarchy in a natural ecosystem exists. Pyramids exist because they are really, really, really amazing structures of interconnectivity. Okay, not all pyramids are bad. And the pyramidical structure of the tantric world, the lineage that I practiced in, sits at the pinnacle of the pyramid. Does that mean we're the bestest? We're the greatest? We're the bossiest? That's not what it means. What it means is and this is the first time we're getting a little frozen. Are you there? Are you getting you're taking the longest gulp of water. Are you there?
Yeah, you froze a little bit. I froze.
Okay, now we're coming back because I'm at the pinnacle. Like,
yeah, you got to the pyramidical structure. You're saying in this, preservation of indigenous wisdom and in the natural state, that actually what it is about interconnection, not about oppression.
Right. It's not about hierarchy, but there is a hierarchy. It's okay. Yeah. Not all hierarchies are bad. Hierarchy is bad when you're enforcing systems of oppression and, harm. Yeah. That's when it's bad. Yeah. But my lineage sits at the top of the pyramid. And what is meant by that is that all of the other stages of the evolution of Tantra, from the proto-tantras through the pancha-agamis, the 5 descending orders, Shakta, Shaiva, Bauddha, Jaina, Tantra. Okay? These 5 streams that will birth all of the lineages of everything in South Asia. Okie dokie? My lineage sits at the very top of the pyramid, and I'm sorry, I've said that over and over again. You guys are like, James, we get you. It sits at the top of the pyramid. And what that means is that all of the practices are in my lineage.
Yeah.
But if you come down to the bottom of the pyramid, then you will only get the Kriya practices.
Okay.
You will only arrive to the Siddhi of the Kriya stage practices. And then comes the yoga stage and all the different lineages and this and that would comprise those folks in there. Then comes the yoga stage, culminating in the realization of the yoga stage. Next will come the Charya stage and all the different practices that will fall under this, a lot of like jnana type things and Advaita Vedanta and this is and that is that identify as tantric, right? Then will come your blue annal, your wrathful practices that nowadays you pretty much would only find in like a Tibetan setting or a Himalayan situation. And then came this 5th Sahaja lineage practices, and those were this pinnacle top of the pyramid business. Okay, now that's one way of describing it. I could describe it to you in like 25 different ways. We could pull out a map of India and I could draw for you with 5 different colors these typical 5 annals, which was the English, the common English scholastic term given to these 5, hang on, kula.
They called them the kula.
These are the 5 kula. Again, our vocabulary word, it's like Sesame Street, Okay, and so like the yellow kula and the red kula and the white kula and the blue kula and the green kula, well, these were all expressions, flavors, and lineages of yogic practices in the South Asian subcontinent setting, right? So again, now my lineage would be situated in the blue school. You would come into our puja room, our shrine room, and you would see Ugratara, the wrathful mother, seated in the center of the iconographical, representations. There'll be other friends in there as well, but Ugratara, the wrathful Tara, the wrathful blue Tara would be centered. And you may come in and you would say, oh, you guys are Kali worshippers. Well, Ugratara looks a lot like Ma Kali.
Yeah, and it reminded me when you spoke about the similarity of the outside look is because when you look at the images of the Mahavidya of the Kali and the Tara, they look similar. They
look very similar, but now Tara represented in the Dasha Mahavidyas is different again from Ugratara. Ugratara, Ugratara, Ugratara looks so much like Kali if you didn't understand, again, the code language of the iconography. Ugratara, one of the only differences is she wears a garland of skulls. Ma Kali wears a garland of severed heads. And iconographically, what that is communicating are two different stages of Siddhi.
Okay.
Right? So that's what I'm saying, that like I can go on explaining just the structure of Kula in the tantric concept. We can look at it iconographically, we can look at it from practice, we can look at it from colors, we can look at it from dress. So even what I'm wearing here, barring the polka dot sweater, but I'm wearing two insignias today that actually communicate a couple of things. One, these Rudraksha communicate Tantra, Shaiva, that kind of thing. But actually this fine Dakini jacket right here is communicating what type of practitioner I am, my stage of practice, a regional connection, and a status. But most of you wouldn't even know that, or if you've seen me, at Santosha or Buddhafield, or we're rocking this jacket, or when I wore it to the Kaylee, kind of thing, you wouldn't know that because another code language, right? So here's the problem, that if we're at this moment where the lineages are dying, where they're taking their last breaths right now, and we don't know any of these interpretations, and we don't know these secrets behind the secrets. And this is my little yogi here.
Hi, Rosie.
And then
Ibrahim, hello.
It's anybody else can come along and write a different version of this, and that is what has happened. That now in the realm of trademarks, copyrights, certificates, and badges, anybody can come along and write their story and make you feel so special and so exclusive in the secret club that you're now in.
Yeah.
And you don't know any better. And so I remember one of the first teachings that I received from the teacher who I studied with. His name is Kulavadut Satpurananda. We call him Kappa Baba, the Mad Father, and that is a title. That's not a affectionate name. That is a title, a status of
Yeah.
He's the Mad Father. One of the first teachings that he ever gave me was how to identify a Buddha. And he pulled a Sanskrit text. So that was the thing. Like, our lineage is the same equivalent lineage. The Aguranath Sampradaya, Buddhist Aguranath Sampradaya, is the same lineage as the non-monastic Nyingmapa, the Ngagmo and Ngagma, the Ngakpa lineage, for those of you that are from the Tibetan world, Tibetan Vajrayana, that our medium was Sanskrit, not Tibetan. So our texts are in Sanskrit, not Tibetan. Huge identifying factor. And we were largely discriminated against by Tibetans as being inauthentic, when we were no less authentic. It's just, you have to pair up the right hierarchy, you know? So if you can take the same stages of Tibetan lineages, Geluk, Sakya, Kagyu, Nyingma, and then their Sahaja lineages, you can line them exactly with what I presented you today, which is the Indian, so sort of below Tibet,
Yeah.
like, you know, geographically, you know, of your Gurukula system, and they align essentially as a whole other fun storytelling. And so, you know, story within a story, he pulled a text off the shelf and translated it then and there from the Sanskrit of how you identify an enlightened master. Like, it's not because you feel it in your heart, you know, kind of thing. Is that, no, this is technology. And you used that word yesterday as well, Uma, in your talk. These are yogic technologies.
Yeah.
This is serious business. And there is a structure. And the structure is there to support authenticity.
Yeah.
So where I want to kind of conclude here today is a call in, something that I received in meditation last summer, and that was a directive to create a Dharma refugee camp. And I was like, what?
I love this concept.
Right? And I mean, I was like at the beach, kind of like on our lake, like out on a floaty, just having this like floaty day with another Dharma sister friend. And I mean, it was a very clear directive. And I said, a Dharma refugee camp, what's that about? And what Ma showed me was this work. And I believe that this, you know, this movement and this initiative that is just beginning and is stewarding forward and is not exclusive to Yoni Shakti. It is intersectional. That'll be our next talk.
That's our next talk.
That what's really critically important is that we are able to heal from the abuses, but that we don't lose our practices. And what I have to offer is the structure. I know what the structure is. I know the bones. I know where things are supposed to plug in where and what unfolds from where. And both my scholastic work and my work in when I did my master's degree, my thesis, everything that I do is about reclamation and repurposing. It's about reclaiming and remodeling and preserving indigenous tradition through what I use, which is a comparative framework.
Yeah.
And so what I'm calling in, you know, is this work of, we don't have to relinquish our practices. We don't have to lose the parts of ourselves where we found ourselves. And I've seen some of you make comments to other things in the group of like, yeah, but I learned so much. I found myself. You know, and I know that what I found is authentic. That's authentically me. That's not anybody else's projection onto me or a stylization of the guru or any of it. No, I did those practices and I discovered myself. It's not self-hypnosis. It's not spiritual bypass. And so I want you to know that I'm here to support you in being able to have a technology, a yogic technology based in a tantric structure. And a tantric structure is just meaning the natural world. It's an ecosystem that we can create a refugee situation. We can create a shelter for our own community.
Sound is a little strange at this point.
Is it cutting in and out?
Oh, I'm gonna text Robin. I'm like really mad.
Do we come back?
Yeah, it's cutting a little bit. We got to the place where we're just speaking about the importance of honoring and holding, supporting the practices that are truly revelatory, the practices that we learn help us discover and welcome parts of ourselves, awaken, you know? We don't want to lose those. And there's often this sense that, you know, we learn these great things from bad organizations. We learn good stuff from bad people or from people who did bad stuff. And so it can be like, oh, you just get rid of the whole thing. But I actually think what you're saying, Yoli, is really important, that we actually get to preserve and to honor the whole process of the yogic practice that people have engaged in. That's deeply valuable. And I think that's one of the things that really troubles people, that actually, well, do I have to abandon all this now just because I've discovered that the structure in which I learn is just full of vice and violence and oppression and abuse?
What it also does is it makes you stay longer in the abusive setting because you think, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to get this anywhere else. And especially if you're in something that's authentic, yet abusive nonetheless. So, you know, the work that, you know, Matthew Remski is exposing, cult psychologies, the intersections with lineage, post-lineage, with Thea Wildcroft's works. It's why, you know, we have like a Native American thing where this kind of conceptualization where we're coming together to sing the same song. Like we're individuals, but then all of a sudden we're arriving together. It's very Susie Rowe, you know, and we're arriving to this immense, powerful harmony, you know, is the promise of this work, because it's possible, right? And so what, you know, I don't need to come along and write another Yoni Shakti. I may like to write something that's quite, you know, Black, Brown, Indigenous, people of color. Like I may like to contribute to an effort that centers a certain population, or, you know, like this, but I don't need to come along and write another Yoni Shakti, but I need to come up off what I'm sitting on, all those jewels and gems. I called them berries earlier, but what they actually are diamonds and emeralds and rubies and really, really, really precious gems.
Treasures.
Shinta money. right?
Money.
And I'm sitting on all these precious gems, and I feel like I'm Smog the dragon. No, really, I'm calling myself out, and this happened a couple. These revelations came to me last year as I suffered through many negative experiences in the commercialized yoga world. That, wow, I'm like Smog the dragon right now. I'm sitting in my cave alone on top of a pile of gold and gems and jewels, and there are all these people who are suffering. It's not that I have the answer, it's that I have been gifted this journey where I was able to collect all these jewels and gems and the systems and like, so it's like beautiful boxes, jewelry boxes that they're in, and those are the technologies. And I'm over here in my bubble, enjoying my quarantine life just fine, because yay, I'm just gonna sit around and meditate and train all day every day, like awesome, but that's not the point. What were those 12 years for? And what were the 12 years in the native lineage before that? What was it all for? Right? So last thing I'll share, there's two paths in the Tantras. There's the path of Siddhi, and there's the path of Seva. And you can be
Siddhi and Seva.
You can choose the meditator's path. You can choose the path where you're going to sit and meditate, and that's going to be your universal contribution, right? And that sounds really fantastical and really nice and really of some era bygone.
Oh, just went so funny.
Yeah, we went a little funny again. Okay, now we're back now.
Yeah, we just got Siddhi and Seva.
So we're talking about these two paths.
Yeah.
And Seva.
Go for it.
Now my guru's Bengali, so Shiva. All the saws are shaws, right? So we got Siddhi and we have Seva, right? Or Shiva. And sure, you can take the path of Siddhi and you do the meditation, you do the practice, and that is your service to the universe at large, and it is noble and that's lovely and grand, kind of thing. And I don't know, I think it's a little era bygone. When I came into this, I just felt like this world of the Tantrik Gurukul, I just felt like I'm all about service. Like I'm all about this embodied practice. I'm all like with the people, like yes. And so I put my meditator's time in, and it wasn't easy because I'm not a good meditator. I'm an action lady, but my seva and my offer and what I'm committing to going forward is to come off this wealth,
and share it,
and co-create a shelter where you can come and heal and do your own reclaiming, repurposing, remodeling, and be able to maintain and retain your own yogic technologies in a way that is not coercive, that is not colonized, that you have liberated your own liberation tools. You have liberated yourself from harmful systems of oppression, including anti-racism and white privilege, and that you are able to then turn right around and help somebody else.
Yeah, that's the whole point,
I really like doing this, but it's actually annoying.
That may be the cue to wrap up.
But she was shouting at me. She won't give me made good. She won't do anything. So she's going on the rush thing.
Yeah, this quarantine life, this is, this is a challenge of,
I feel that having arrived at this space of like the seva or the sheva, the way of sharing and supporting the liberation of the liberation tools is a good place to wrap all this up, because we can pick up further discussions about this in our next talk. So I would like to do that. I'm so thankful for you for making the time and having the persistence. Hi, Rhodes Ibrahim. Bless you. And I'll let your mommy get back to a connection with you. I'm so grateful to hear you're showering, Yoli. Thank you. And I will look forward to exploring how this, I love this metaphor that you shared of the harmony, the great harmony of bringing all that everyone has learned in all these different places and letting there be a shelter for us to practice together, free from harm.
Yeah. Yeah, and shame and
guilt. I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you. All of that. Shame, guilt, harm, and oppression. We kind of liberate the tools from those environments. Thank you, love. All right. Goodbye. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Jai Ma, Jai Guru.
Jai Ma, Jai Ma. Let's stop here. That's it. And